The Lament of the Cursed Confessions. At 9 in the evening, crowds flock to the city's most renowned venue, the Golden Banner Hall, for an official gala. Classical music played softly, and the guests exchange greetings tinged with cautious anticipation. In the midst of it all, the massive wooden doors swung open, revealing Stephen Marlowe walking in with confident strides, though his eyes betrayed a hidden turmoil. Everyone fell silent. Why had Marlowe come uninvited? It seemed as if something grave was about to be revealed. He stepped up to the podium and, in a raised voice, declared, "Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for you to learn the truth about this event and about some of the city's most distinguished names." Elizabeth Rivers held her breath when she noticed Richard Pierce, the mayor, clutching the armrests of his chair with thinly veiled anxiety. At the far end of the hall stood Leonard Stone, the prominent businessman, his face completely rigid. All eyes turned toward Stephen as a tense silence foretold an impending storm. Stephen Marlowe was not just a reckless man. He was gifted with a natural intelligence that allowed him to secure quick business deals with the city's elite. Nevertheless, he carried a sharp pain in his heart. His late mother had endured great humiliation at the hands of certain influential families. He saw himself as a champion of justice, vowing revenge on those who once disdained her. A few nights before the gala, he received an anonymous letter warning him, "If you want to uncover what really goes on behind the scenes of this city, be prepared to lose your own reputation as well." Despite the warning, Stephen insisted on crashing the stage that evening, knowing that Elizabeth Rivers, Richard Pierce, and Leonard Stone would all be gathered under one roof. At the podium, he intended to expose what he had discovered, but never suspected that his public attack would ignite a chain reaction of downfalls that could consume him as well. Elizabeth Rivers enjoyed a sterling reputation in high society, thanks to her family's heritage and her charitable activities. Yet, behind her composed exterior lurked a deep fear that an old the table deal made to save the family estate from bankruptcy might see the light. She had secretly brokered that deal with Leonard Stone when he was on the rise in the business world, agreeing to promote her charitable image in return for ample influence from her family. In a corner of the hall, Anna Gray, a journalist, approached Elizabeth and whispered, "Is it true what people are saying about financial changes in your family's deeds? I've heard there are things you don't want revealed." Elizabeth sighed, trying to stifle her anxiety. "Now is not the right time, Anna. We all have secrets, don't we?" Anna said nothing, but glanced at Stephen on the podium while jotting down notes in a small notebook. She sensed that a moment of revelation was near, and that the city's battles of reputation resembled a minefield of lies and vested interests. In the realms of commerce and media, Leonard Stone was known for running a large showroom of curiosities. He was adept at skillfully timed leaks and rumors to undermine his competitors. At the same time, he had a persuasive charm, earning him the nickname, the Golden Fox, in private circles. Stone knew Stephen intended to expose him, so he set his network in motion days before the gala, circulating new rumors painting Stephen as a fraud and a peddler of lies. When Stephen stepped onto the stage in the hall, Lownard and his deputy exchanged confident looks. Let him speak. Every word he says, we'll use against him. If he reveals anything about us, we'll discredit him entirely. Meanwhile, Anna Gray quietly noted in her journal, there's something bigger behind his calm smile. Will Stephen strike him down, or be struck down himself? Thus the mystery deepened, and speculation grew about who would bring the other down first. At the long table in front of the hall sat Richard Pierce, feigning composure. Throughout his years as mayor, he had built a reputation for being a decisive leader. However, Anna Gray had hinted in one of her articles that he might have embezzled money from the city's charitable funds. Despite Pierce's repeated denials, the rumors had not abated. What he feared most now was the possibility of Stephen and Anna joining forces against him. That alliance would be a fatal blow of accusations. So whenever Stephen began to speak, Richard's eyes would widen as if he were preparing either to defend himself or to launch a sudden attack. Let him say what he wants. I have just as many documents against him, he muttered inwardly, wiping the sweat from his brow as the tension in the room continued to mount, threatening everyone's reputation. Stephen commenced his speech with a cryptic revelation that left the audience in a state of suspense. This event, supposedly held for charity, conceals behind it some questionable financial dealings. Allow me to begin with Mayor Richard Pierce. A murmur spread among the guests, some looking at the mayor, others at Leonard Stone. But Stephen pressed on. There are documents signed by the mayor's office pointing to large sums of money redirected to profitable ventures run by Mr. Stone. The moment he finished his sentence, an oppressive hush fell. Stone and Pierce exchanged stunned looks. Stone let out a light, dismissive chuckle. Do you have proof, Mr. Marlowe? Or are you living in a fantasy? Stephen held his ground and pulled out a large brown envelope, waving it without opening it. Everyone seemed to lean forward in their chairs, aghast. On the side, Elizabeth stood frozen as if wanting to halt him. Meanwhile, Anna Gray opened her camera to document every detail. She smelled the scent of a major scandal. At that moment, Anna received a text message on her phone from an unknown sender. If you want the whole truth, look into the Rivers family records. Remember, Stephen's father once worked for them. You'll be shocked by the details. Slipping out to the back corridor, she rummaged through an archive of paperwork she had compiled about rumors suggesting that Stephen's father had a secret relationship with someone in the Rivers family. Her breathing quickened. If that were true, Stephen might be plotting revenge not just against Stone or the mayor, but against Elizabeth's family as well. My God, everything here is intertwined. Anna realized this was no longer a mere commercial or political struggle. It was a conflict of blood, reputation, and an old destiny remerging. When Anna returned to the hall, the confrontation had flared up. Stone, armed with his trademark showmanship, dared Stephen to open the brown envelope. Stephen lifted the envelope high and spoke with a mocking tone. "If you insist on battle, then I will fight. But know this, what I reveal tonight could bring down your entire city. I will not bow anymore." The audience erupted in whispers and shouts. Elizabeth stepped in, speaking to Stephen in a nearly pleading voice. "Let's talk somewhere private. You might bring disaster on yourself." But he answered curtly, "Not just on me, on all of you. You've forsaken too many principles, haven't you?" At this point, Mayor Richard Pierce approached, shaking his head in warning. "If you open your mouth any further, I'll expose your entire past and reveal your crook deals. Let's see how you survive that." Some of the guests feared the confrontation might turn physical at any moment as the atmosphere grew electrified. Still, Stephen was resolute in pushing forward, whatever the cost. Suddenly, the place was shaken by a shout from Anna Gray, who rushed forward and declared, "Laddies and gentlemen, I have shocking information. I have just discovered that Mr. Stephen Marlowe's lineage is tied to the Rivers family. Indications suggest that his mother was secretly married to Elizabeth Rivers's cousin." A wave of cows swept over the crowd. Eyes turned to Elizabeth in utter disbelief, and her face paled to a ghostly white. "Fate, that can't be true." But Stephen did not deny it. He cried out, "Yes, and because you ostracized my mother and treated her like a criminal, I decided to tear down the walls of your hollow pretenses. So this is your innocent family." Elizabeth trembled and confessed with a quivering tone, "I'm sorry. I never wanted this past dug up, but it was the price I paid to protect our family's reputation." Meanwhile, Richard Pierce seethed, thumping his palm on the table as he demanded security end the event, while Leonard Stone silently hoped his plan to destroy Stephen's credibility would work. Many in the audience were now questioning Stephen's motives as purely vengeful. The uproar reached its apex. Nobody cared anymore about maintaining composure or decorum. Rumors of leaked documents condemning everyone ran rampant. In the midst of that storm, Stephen realized he had said far too much. The memory of that anonymous warning flashed before him. "If you reveal too much, you may burn yourself before burning them." He walked to the exit of the hall, head bowed like one emerging from a bloody battle. Without a word of farewell, he left everyone there grappling with the cows of their own scandals. That was the last time he was seen in public for many hours. The next day, the newspapers published explosive headlines. a scandal implicating Mayor Richard Pierce in misappropriating municipal funds, a secret deal between Elizabeth Rivers and Leonard Stone to salvage her family's estate, the tangled familial predicament haunting Stephen ever since his birth, an open war on everyone's reputation. Result: citizens lost faith in many of their prominent figures. As for Stephen, he became something of an outcast. No one knew whether he had achieved his true goal or sacrificed himself in the end. Philosophical and psychological wisdom, a single word spoken in a fit of unbridled passion can shape your destiny for a long time to come. When the tongue is unleashed recklessly, it can destroy your reputation just as it can destroy others. Pot reputation. Everyone in the city learned a harsh lesson: that reputation is not merely a mask, but a lifeboat. Once that boat is ripped apart in a sea of scandals, no one escapes unscathed. Boasting and revealing secrets, rushing to expose others out of revenge can backfire terribly. Truth is always a double-edged sword. It can vindicate its wielder or strike them down on the altar of scandal. Psychological fragility. Behind each polished image lies someone broken, seeking to mend their dignity. They may lose themselves, imagining they are avenging the world, while actually self-destructing and harming their own standing first. Control over speech. The most brutal lesson Stephen learned was that controlling one's tongue may save one from disastrous consequences. In a moment of weakness, he let everything spill and exposed his own secrets. Thus do we see how vulnerable we are to the thrill of confrontation and unrestrained speech. Conclusion: in a city ruled by reputation and suspicion, everyone who tried to silence or expose the other ended up tarnished as well. There is no true triumph in a war of reputations. Everyone pays a heavy price when the spell turns against the sorcerer. In the end, sometimes silence holds wisdom, while overly elaborate speech can become the graveyard of one's standing. So beware, for the tongue that fights can easily become the poison that traps its owner.